Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Khan. Today, I have the distinct honor of sitting with one of the country's greatest academics and scholars, Dr. Nasir Jamal Khattak. Dr. Khattak is a distinguished professor of English at the University of Peshawar, and he has been 2 times a vice chancellor of 2 different varsities, in addition to being the chairman of the Department of English. It's an honor to have you, Dr. Khattak, today.
Thank you, Dr. Sam.
Before we start, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so now. Thank you. It's always a delight to talk to Dr. Khattak, and today I thought it would be appropriate to talk about our country, the challenges that we are facing in Pakistan today. There are many problems that have befallen Pakistan today. There are 4 different areas that I think are most important, and I call them the 4 A's. One is education, which I think is number 1. The second E is economy. The third E is extremism. And the final E is energy crisis. So, first of all, thank you again, Dr. Khattak, for allowing us to speak to you.
Thank you for speaking to me.
Yeah. What do you think about my classification of the difficulties of Pakistan?
I think they are vitally connected. When you mentioned the 4 E's, I had in the back of my mind the chicken and the egg dilemma. So it's difficult to figure out which one comes first.
Yes.
And in our society, we usually categorize things. We like to separate things.
Yes.
We hardly ever think in pluralistic terms. So we, most of the times, unfortunately, do not realize how education, energy, extremism, economy are very vitally connected.
Yes. Where do you see, or how do you see the education system in Pakistan?
First and foremost, we ought to understand that for the state of Pakistan, education is not a priority.
Yes.
It should be, but it isn't.
Yes.
And why do I say that? Is it just one of those things because of which in our society people easily criticize the state? No. I say education is not a priority based on the annual budgets that the government presents. And we need to look at the amount that is first allocated and then eventually released.
Yes.
We may allocate a lot, but if we realize that we need money somewhere else, then the first cut is on the
victim is the education sector.
Yeah, true.
Unfortunately.
So that is why I say why education is not our priority. Second, in most third world countries, due to a variety of reasons, they are backward, not because they don't want to move ahead or they want to move forward, but because they're carrying what I call emotional baggage.
Emotional baggage.
Yes. Like education usually, and I say usually, doesn't have any religion or any language.
Yes.
Or any ethnicity.
Yes.
In our country, I think it has a religion, it has an ethnicity,
Yes.
It has a language. So if that is how we begin to see education, then we may be producing literate people or half-baked graduates, as I call them. We may not necessarily be producing educated graduates. It's not literacy, it's education which is important.
Yes.
And when we say literacy, that means perhaps we want our people to learn how to read and write.
Right, yes.
Not think.
Yes.
Because literacy teaches you how to read and write. Education teaches you how to think.
Yes.
So we may have a very high percentage of literacy, but how many of those literate people are actually educated? So who is educated then? I personally think that if education does not interfere with my life in a productive manner, then I'm literate, I'm not educated. how does it interfere with my life in a productive manner? If my education does not make me aware of my responsibility towards my fellow countrymen,
Correct.
towards other humans in my society, towards my country, towards my people, then, or towards the law of, more importantly, towards the law of my country, then perhaps I'm literate, but I'm not educated.
Correct.
I usually tell students that if you want to figure out how educated a society is, stand on the bank of a road and see how many people actually strictly follow the traffic rules. And if you do that, stand anywhere on any roadside in Pukhtunkhwa, on
By that standard, Pakistan probably is not
very educated. True. It's like we are the kind of people who, when the light is red, we run it if there is no police wala.
Yes.
But if there is a police wala standing next to the red light, and perhaps we are one of those very few countries, if not the only one, where there is a traffic light standing next to which is a police wala as well, and only then we respect the law.
Yes.
Or traffic laws. So I would, I personally have begun to talk about it, that it's not literacy rate we should talk about. We should talk about education rate.
Yes.
Like in Pakistan, some time back, there was this discussion about knowledge-based economy.
Yes.
Which is one of your E's. I think that we should change that too.
Yes.
Instead of talking about knowledge-based economy, we should talk about knowledge-based society.
Correct.
When we talk about knowledge-based economy, we usually think in terms of science and technology, and we usually don't give much thought to humanities and social sciences.
Yes.
Why I would say we need knowledge-based society is because one of the E's that you mentioned is extremism and energy, for example. So I use electricity, but if I don't pay the bill, then I am also responsible for the energy crisis that we are facing. And Pakistan is perhaps one of those, unfortunately, very few countries where people consume the electricity but don't pay the bills.
Yes.
So instead of getting into the scientific and technological aspects of how our energy producing heads are perhaps outdated,
yes,
before we do that, I think we should also consider how many of us who are willing to use the energy are not actually willing to pay the bills.
Correct.
So if then you come as a representative of the energy providing company and ask me to pay the bill, I am going to seek refuge in my local traditions or religion. And so for that money, I am going to resort to some extreme behaviors to thwart your effort to help me pay the bill.
Correct.
So I don't know if I have been able to connect all these.
Actually,
but I think that is what we do.
Excellent synthesis of the factors. And I think you brilliantly explained how, our education system is not achieving the desired result and then leading to the other three E's, which are economy, the economic decline, extremism. It's feeding into that, and the energy crisis. And as you said, I think I agree with you. Education, first and foremost, should have a simple and straightforward outcome for people. It should make us better human beings.
True.
If it is doing that, then it's good. If it's not doing that, then it's not good.
And I'm sorry, I'm cutting you short. When I start a new class with my students, there are a few questions that I'll ask them. One of them is, if they have done anything in their life which they can proudly tell themselves that they have done this one thing for the betterment of life, not their life, the life of others. Life in general.
Yes.
Okay. So, like, the average age of undergrad students is almost 1/4 of a century.
Yes.
So I tell my students that if you're lucky to make it to 100, you have almost spent 1/4 of your life. And if you make it to 80, Um, undergrads are 22, 23. So again, almost one
A
fourth
quarter of your existence has already elapsed.
lapsed. So is there anything that you can proudly tell yourself that you have done that, due to which there is some sort of a benefit, comfort, ease, convenience in the life of your neighbors,
Yes.
your, people, your peers, people with whom you interact? And I think if we begin to ask that question from people, most of us will have an awkward pause.
Excellent point. And I can't agree more with you on this point. The fact is that we as a society, when we talk about education, we think about jobs. We think about, getting a distinction, getting marks, getting all that. Nobody ever tells us that the purpose is to make you a better human being. Tomorrow, if you learn something, you will use that knowledge to create value. And that value is not just money. It means you can bring a smile on the face of another human being. That is value. If you can do something that will help human beings or animals or the environment in any way, even when you are gone, even if you are not remotely connected to it, even if you don't get any direct reward for it, that is still a benefit of your education.
True. If we look at our education system, Pakistan is a security state.
Yes.
In a security state, human life and human society, human dignity, they are perhaps not important.
They're not the priority.
A security state always needs an enemy.
Yes.
An external one.
Yeah. If it's there, it's there. Then it's not there, it will be created.
Right.
It has to be created.
I usually, when I talk to my friends, I usually tell them, it's like, we can change that narrative too.
Yes.
Instead of thinking of people as our enemies, they are within the country or outside the country, can we think of poverty as our enemy?
Disease.
Can we think of diseases as our enemy?
Extremism, intolerance.
Corruption.
Yes.
Intolerance, extremism.
Yeah.
Weak institutions which are collapsing. Can we think of these as our enemies? If we begin to do that, we can still keep whatever enemies we want to have. We can still keep them, but a little bit of attention if you begin to give to some of these problems, which has made life really very difficult in Pakistan, then maybe, our education interferes with our life in a much more productive way.
So if I could just, try to say the same thing that you said again, I think there are two issues here that I can see from what you tell me. One is that our education already is not in a very good condition, given the fact that it does not get the funding that it deserves, the attention that the priority that it deserves. So that is on a state level. And then what we have of the education is also not well geared to producing educated individuals. So we might be getting people who are literate but not really educated, because our society, if we look around, does not comprise of people who are enlightened, who are there to create harmony, who are to create peace, who are peace-loving, law-abiding, and all that. No, we don't have those.
That's even if
absolutely well educated.
Absolutely, Dr.
In terms of going to college and universities.
Absolutely, Dr. If we look at it this way, like in Pakistan, there are more than 200 public sector universities.
Yes.
There are more than 30 public sector universities in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And most universities in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, with the exception of a very few, they're facing serious financial problems. And I usually, whenever we discuss this issue, I tell my friends that universities are in a begging mode.
Yes.
What do I mean by universities are in a begging mode? We expect the government to give us funds so universities can
thrive.
Yeah, can do whatever. Yes and no.
Yes.
Yes, because they are public sector universities and they are public sector universities, which means public money should be given to these universities. How much of it we give, that's a different story altogether. No, because universities should also think about how they can generate revenues
Yes.
on their own. And it's a very long discussion. And, maybe there will be another sitting that we would require for how universities can generate money. But why I think I say we keep universities in these financial problems is because it comes again to the same thing. Do we want our universities to give education, or do we want our universities to produce literate people?
Yes.
So if the university administration and teachers are struggling for survival, the only casualty will be education.
Yes.
The only casualty will be the quality of education. Like even today, there is a protest in
I saw outside people sitting protesting.
Yes, and the reason is today is the 15th of the month, and they haven't been paid.
Oh.
They haven't been paid yet. They should have been paid, but that's a different story altogether. So why do we have these financial problems? Pakhtunkhwa has more serious financial problems than other provinces. I also think that it has so much to do with our understanding of universities.
Yes.
We think universities are graduate producing institutions.
Factories.
Yes, they're not. Why throughout the whole world universities are given autonomy is because universities usually critique everything that happens in the society.
Yes.
The government does it, the state does it, people do it, government departments do it, even teachers do it, whoever does it. And perhaps universities elsewhere are the only organizations which also have the ability to critique themselves.
Yes.
So they're not just the subject.
Yes.
They are the object of their study as well.
Correct.
Why we don't give them autonomy is because, as I said before, that since education is not our priority, and education in our country has religion, it has ethnicity, it has a language, there are certain no-go areas in education, in research, in Pakistan. So if there are, no-go areas in any sense of the word are not good, but if there are intellectual no-go areas where you cannot do research on this or you cannot do research on that, then that means that there is some sort of a conflict between my faith system, which tells me I should tell the truth all the time, and what the state wants. So there is a particular kind of truth that we are interested in. We are not interested in the truth. The truth has to be politically correct. It has to be, economically
allowed to look at one side of the story, and you are not allowed to explore it for yourself. So how could you ever learn everything if there are terms and conditions of what you are allowed to explore, research? And
Exactly. Like one day I was talking to one of our colleagues from another university, and I said, I think we need to collect some data about which government departments, law enforcing or the other ones, which ones actually owe WAPTA more money.
Yes.
And this public information is so difficult
to retrieve. So sometimes trying to retrieve information of this nature might have consequences.
True. So what I'm saying is,
and this is, by the way, public information that in another country would be on any site.
That should be available on the website.
Exactly.
Which
everyone can see.
Which department owes WAPDA how much money? That should be public knowledge. And even I don't know, but maybe the parliament can get that information. So what I'm saying is how we have strangulated universities in a manner where the problems that are indigenous, the problems which are local, can be addressed by intellectuals working in universities. But since they are struggling for survival, those problems we see through the eyes of international organizations. So there is this country's report about Pakistan. There is a report by that organization or World Bank or IMF or there are different organizations issuing reports about countries. So there isn't much of report generation per se. There isn't much of research that we do in Pakistan. Why? Because
it's not allowed, maybe.
Well, it isn't allowed. One, two. I'm stuck in struggle for survival. One, two.
And maybe if you try to explore those areas, you would be choked even more.
Absolutely. It's like we don't talk about that. We don't talk about this. We don't talk about that.
Not our priority.
True. So, which means, and which is why perhaps in our society, when we talk about research, whenever I have interacted with some people, they say, well, what is it that the universities have done so far?
Yeah.
And I said, what is it that you want universities to do?
Yes.
Has anyone ever told universities what the state or the country wants the universities to do?
Yes.
I don't think so.
No. Yeah. So I think what you're trying to say is that if, number one, the universities are allowed to have the resources that are needed for universities to function. Second, if they are allowed the autonomy to function. And third, if those goals are set for them or they set the goals for themselves, what are the issues that you have faced?
Research is a very expensive hobby.
Yes.
Research is not farming.
Yes.
Where you sow seeds in a field and after 2-3 days, there are saplings coming out. And after some time, you will be harvesting the crop.
No, it's at the same time a mandatory part of education.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, whenever we think about research in Pakistan, we usually think about making things.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. I usually tell my friends, okay, we will get to making things if we have been able to make a society.
Yes.
If we have been able to make humans.
We haven't even come to that thinking level yet.
No.
Where people think of, I'm yet to see a single student in Pakistan who can think of research as finding the truth, striving to learn something. Most of the people think when you talk about research, they think a publication under your name and, just getting, and I think that
we want the paper.
Yeah,
we want the degree.
Paper, a degree just for that. So you're 100% right. I think what we need is, first of all, we need to invest in research to the point that actual research starts taking place. And it might take some time after that. The trickling effect of that would be we will go to the manufacturing side and getting results. So,
earlier, I think during our conversation, you said how most of us are students are running after grades.
Yes.
Or professors are running after publications. And I agree with that. All of them may not be like this, but unfortunately, majority of us are like that. Previously, the equation was different. Previously, the number of people running after degrees was much less. But then, by the start of this century, there was some sort of a direction given to higher education, after which we began to believe that, we need to invest very heavily in higher education. Wonderful. But then in the process, we ended up supporting or having those students or having those people get their degrees who perhaps were never interested in research or in getting PhD, since they were looking for a job. Hey, why not find a job in a university? Right. So I don't want to sound cynical, but most of us, unfortunately, are in universities because we couldn't find other jobs.
Yes.
One. Two, most of us, even though we wanted to be teachers, if we wanted to be teachers in the first place, which is a very rare thing in Pakistan, we don't want to be teachers. We want to join the civil service. We want to join the army. We want to be doctors. We want to be engineers. That's it. There isn't anything else that we want to do after that. These are all typical middle-class desires. And so there aren't many who would want to be teachers. So, but if we suppose that there are some who want to be teachers, how many of us want to, join primary school teaching?
Yes.
Is it teaching or is it the position or grade that I'm going to get?
Yes.
So, no, it's not the profession. It's not the job that I'm doing.
Yes.
It's the money. Of course, money is important. I do not mean to sound like some sort of purist who believes that, teachers should
Everything should be for the sake of
exactly.
God.
No, not at all. But then that means maybe the disparity, the economic disparity between primary teachers and non-primary teachers,
Yes.
that needs to be a little balanced, so we can have quality teachers go to primary schools. I personally think that in universities, we are producing papers not because we mean to do research,
Yes.
but because we have to for our promotion, for our progression. So there can be people, and there are people who in 1 year have published 30, 35 papers. It's like, how is that humanly possible?
Yes.
So we are checking boxes of having papers published. There are journals, which like nobody knows them outside those organizations, but we are publishing in those papers because they are somehow fulfilling.
Just we want to have our H index,
right,
this and this number.
Right. So coming back to education, we are, as I said before, we are producing literate people.
Yes.
But when it comes to education, I think we should use that word a little cautiously. We are not educated, we are illiterate.
So I want to come to that.
Right.
And the other E, maybe that should be the next one we discuss now, and probably that will conclude the discussion. Extremism. And when I say extremism, it has many, many forms. So, of course, it could mean the polarization of society in terms of, on ethnic lines, political lines, religious lines, even on, on all these different, lines. Why is it there? What exactly is feeding this? Where is it coming from?
I personally think that our media, our textbooks, the weekly or day-to-day sermons or conversations that we have in our society, they all revolve around self-righteousness.
Yes.
We somehow have come to believe that we are the only right people.
I think so, yeah.
And if I think like that, that means anyone who has any difference of opinion with me, or anyone who dresses up differently, or anyone who speaks differently, or anyone who does things differently, I'm going to be opposed to that person.
Yes.
I'm going to demonize that person.
Yes.
I usually talk to students and I ask them if they follow, for example, cricket, when it comes to cricket, and if Pakistan wins from this country, are they happy because Pakistani team won, or are they happy because the other team lost?
Yes.
So why we are extremists is because we somehow think that we are the best.
Yes.
We may be the best, but do we know about others?
Yes.
If I don't know about others, then I am emotionally self-sufficient. Who is a Majnun and Layla in himself?
Exactly.
I mean, can you see the emotional perversion?
Yes.
I'm my own Shama and I'm the Patang too.
Yes.
I think that is what has led to this extremist attitude.
Yeah, and unfortunately, even with passing time, it's getting worse and worse.
Oh, absolutely.
So obviously, you have a lot longer and more experience than I do. You would have seen Pakistan or, the education system, let's say in the 80s and the 90s. Was it similar to what we see now in terms of, how people accept each other's opinions and how they, how they actually think about people who may not think the same way, let's say in terms of politics or religion or, any other walk of life?
When I was going to school, we would study social studies. There was a subject called social studies, in which we would learn about the history of this part of the world, starting maybe with Mohenjo-daro,
Yes.
and talking about, different civilizations, different. Exactly. So then I could relate myself to a remote past.
Yes.
Now, the subject which we have replaced social studies with is Pakistan studies.
Yes.
And my past goes back to 1857.
Yes.
I don't think any nation will have such a short past.
Yeah.
Another subject that we would study when we were in school, that was diniyat.
Yes.
And we would learn about different religions, the diniyat.
Yeah.
Right? That was replaced with Islamiyat.
Yeah.
So we did not stay focused on how in this world there are so many different ethnicities, there are so many, even within Pakistan, there are so many different ethnicities, there are so many different religions, there are so many different sects, there are so many, etc., etc., etc. So we, in the hope or with the goal of some sort of national unity,
Yes.
we, or national, whatever you call it,
Just
right, that, we should promote just this one thing. I usually tell students that where we need diversity is where we look for something unitary.
yes.
And where there should be oneness is where we have diversity.
Yes.
Like we should be one in following the constitution of the country. We should be one in following the law of the country.
Yes.
But the law and its implementation depends on which department I work for. If I'm a teacher, the law applies to me differently. But if I'm in a law enforcing agency, the law applies to me differently. And if I'm a parliamentarian, the law may not apply to me. And if I'm a judge, of course not. So that is where we have diversity. We should have unity there.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And we should celebrate diversity in the different cultures, subcultures that we have in Pakistan. No. Don't talk about subcultures. We are all Pakistanis.
We are Pakistani.
Of course we are. Of course we are. We are proud of it.
We have to be proud also of the, the other heritage that we have each of us as individuals.
I usually, tell students, imagine if I look at my body and I say, I like my hand more, so my entire body should look like a hand.
Yeah.
I will look ridiculous.
Yes. Correct.
This is how a body of a society is.
Yes.
It is impossible to have one kind of people who speak one language, who have one kind of rituals, one kind of customs, one kind of this, one kind of that. No, we have to celebrate all of them.
Yes.
Today, let's say we are talking about one language. Tomorrow, then we're going to talk about one kind of clothes.
Yeah.
And the day after, we're going to talk about one kind of hairstyles. I mean, where is it going to stop? On the other hand, if you just say it's like, no, we need to celebrate this pluralism. We need to celebrate this diversity. Then perhaps we will be more integrated.
Exactly.
Now, depending on how many people
that way, there is always only one section of society which will be privileged, and everybody else think they are cast out.
Exactly. So, so what essentially is supposed to be a means of integration has become a means of disintegration.
Yeah.
So, which is why most of us, are willing to leave this country anytime we get a chance.
And that is very unfortunate, by the way people are trying to just leave the country clearly tells, volumes about what kind of, despair prevails in our society.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, the political polarization that has, even worsened over the years is really something that makes me worry. It's impossible to even open your mouth in a group without, having some people, either shout at you or, at least become upset.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable.
I think it goes back to the same thing that earlier I said. My political intolerance is because of my self-righteousness.
Exactly.
I don't support you, for example, not because I have a disagreement
Yeah.
with you in how you believe we should run this province or this country. No,
Exactly.
it's not that. Because you are one party, I'm another party, they are another party.
Correct.
Parties, are there because all of them want to take care of the country,
Yes.
but they just have a different approach to it. Some believe we should take care of it this way, others believe we should take care of it that way. Now, if that is what we mean to do, it's more like the destination is the same.
Yes.
We are taking different routes.
Yes.
But if I tell you that the route that you want to take is wrong,
Yes.
and you should also follow my route.
Yeah. And worse than that, if one person tells the other that you are wrong, you are bad, you are stupid, sometimes there's just because you believe in this or that.
True.
That is at a different level of intolerance.
True.
Yes, I can say that the way you look at things is different from mine. I think mine is right. What you think is not right, as I think.
If politics lacks tolerance, it is not politics.
Exactly.
It isn't. Politics actually, in addition to the technical way of explaining what politics means, one way of looking at it is how you can take along with you all those people who do not agree with you.
Yes.
We, on the other hand, seem to believe that if I have become part of the government, my job is to take care of those people who supported me. Oh, dear Lord, that is not politics.
Yes.
There is a very funny word for that. I mean, I don't want to use it, but
Yes.
that is not politics.
That's not politics.
Politics means, hey, look, we agree to disagree. That is politics. What do we agree on? We agree on promoting this country. We agree on strengthening this country. We may have different approaches about how to promote, how to strengthen this country, but we agree that we will strengthen this country or any country. Now, if that is how politics is, and I begin to turn my political differences with you into some sort of a personal vendetta or feud, I am a very small person.
Yes.
I am anything except a politician. I am anything except being political.
Exactly.
Like when we talk in language about some expressions, that's like, hey, I need to look for a politically correct expression.
Exactly. Should be politically correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
What exactly do we mean by that? What we mean by that is let's look for a word which
doesn't offend people.
Does not offend people,
Exactly.
which protects the emotional, cultural sensitivities of all people.
Yeah. And that's exactly what we are not doing. I think what
not at all.
Here, when we engage in debates, and I think I want to send this message across. If you look at WhatsApp messages in groups, if you just listen to discussions, over coffee among people in our society, that's exactly not what you hear. You don't hear any...
We don't have a debate.
Yeah.
Debate usually means there are two people discussing something. We don't have a debate.
Yes.
There was a time when perhaps in Pakistan we used to have a debate.
Yes.
Now we have a monologue.
I was saying that
now we have a monologue. Now we have a monologue.
Exactly.
So
everyone has their monologue and they refuse to listen to anyone else. So they're just, they just want to shout whatever they have, shout it out, and that's it.
True.
So I think we discussed the education system and we talked about what may be done to revamp it, to bring it out of this state of disrepair. But now I think we should talk a little bit about, how to tackle this extremism issue. And again, I want to say, what would be possible to do in terms of education, how as society, as individual, we should act, what as parents perhaps we should do, how how when the people who are at the helm of affairs, those who are ruling the institutions, the politicians, how do they have a role maybe to tell people under them that probably it's time for us to de-escalate the matter, to to make it less extreme? What do you think could be the message?
Um, First and foremost, I'm very fond of asking questions.
Yes.
So, do we mean to put an end to extremism? I mean, that's a question that the state is facing. That's a question that the country is facing. That's a question that the society is facing. We may say yes for political correctness. But deep down in our hearts, we want to put an end to extremism if it benefits me.
Yes.
If it benefits you, then I'm not interested.
Yeah. So I want to ask another question again. I don't have the answer. If extremism continues, is it possible for Pakistan to, to thrive, or to even in the long run exist if it goes at this pace?
Oh, I think it will exist. It will be alive, but it will not be living.
Yes.
One is being alive, the other is to live.
Yeah.
We are alive at the moment. It's like, patient who is in ICU,
Yes.
and there are machines keeping it alive.
Yes.
Are we living? No.
Yes.
When will we live? Well, when we begin to at least not hurt in any sense of the word, each other, one another, our organizations, our departments, our country, our law, it will survive. I believe it will survive. Why? Because gone are the days when, countries would vanish.
Yes.
The country will survive. I'm not sure about the society.
Yeah. So I read
society is disintegrating, and I hope that process slows down. And one thing that perhaps we need to do as parents, as teachers, as citizens of this country, am I an extremist of some sort?
Yes.
I should ask myself that question, okay? Asking that question is easy. I did. How do I know I'm not an extremist?
Yes.
If in any sense of the word, I feel slightly uneasy,
Yes.
because of the presence of another gender,
Yes.
or because of listening or another language other than mine, or interacting with another ethnicity, or interacting with people from different belief systems.
Correct.
If I feel slightly uneasy,
Yes.
or that kind of physical withdrawal from the other, then I'm an extremist.
Yes.
And if that is how we define extremists, then I think I'm the first one. Most of us, I wouldn't say all of us, because I'm sure there will be some who will not be, but most of us are, because I may tolerate one thing, but there is
Another area
intolerance
where
for something else. Yes. So what is it that we need to do?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, since our focus is not humans and human life, our focus is on a small little part of humans, or small little part of human life, that we are extremists. For example, religion is not life, it's part of life.
Yes.
Religion is not all culture, it's part of culture.
Yes.
But in our society, I think it isn't like that
Yes.
anymore. We do not meet humans. We meet people who follow one or another sect. We meet people who speak one or another language.
They refuse them even the right to exist.
True.
Yeah.
True.
So which again is, it's really mind blowing.
It's scary. Very scary.
Which, by the way, is quite at odds with with a religion like ours. Islam, if anything, does not believe, and totally throwing other people away or, dismissing other people.
I think in theory, no religion believes in throwing away any other.
Any religion. Yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but I think we need to seriously, do something about earlier when you said, how can we put an end to extremism? It will never end.
Yeah.
It will always be there. But there is some short-term plan that we can have, and there is some long-term plan. At the moment, we don't have any plan.
Yes, probably this is the first thing. This is the starting point. And after that, we might be able to see at least what we are doing and other people are doing. So far, I don't think we have even started this exercise.
No, not at all. That is why I said that, when any society wants to overcome extremism or minimize it or reduce it, no one can finish it. There will always be extremists. Once an attitude comes into existence, you cannot cancel it altogether.
Yes.
It will always be there. The problem is how dominant or how not so dominant it is.
Exactly.
Extremism will always be there, but we can and we should minimize it. But at the moment, as I said earlier, we do not seem to have that on our radar anywhere. So extremism, I have a hope that sometime in my lifetime, I see some signs of controlling it.
Yeah, I think extremism is kind of, beating in our temples. It's everywhere. And when I say this, it's more true of, this part of the country, but of course it's everywhere.
Yeah.
And we want to be clear that extremism in terms of, religious views or intolerance is just one part of it. It's also political. It's
absolutely
psychological.
Absolutely.
And, as you said, by the way, this is now when you told me about it, I'm thinking more about it. The language, the kind of language we use is very extreme as well.
Yeah.
And perhaps this is one area where we might be able to, to effect a change more readily than the other areas, because we can think about the words that we use.
True.
And see if they are extreme,
right,
or they show us or come across as opinionated people. If they do, then perhaps we need to think about better terms.
That's if we recollect our childhood, or if we somehow begin to observe how adults treat children,
yes,
we will understand how extremist we are.
Yeah. Belittling.
Exactly, belittling them. And if a child makes a mistake, we don't explain to the child how he can avoid it and why
it was wrong.
Why it was wrong. Yeah. What do? We hit the child.
Yeah.
So
son of a this and son of a this.
Exactly.
We don't even explain.
So if that is, in some societies that will amount to abuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So if that is how I'm raised, I begin to learn that if there is a mistake that somebody makes, instead of correcting the mistake, go hit that person.
Yes.
Okay? So if this is what we are doing, then the society, in a way, unconsciously has raised kids who believe that it's not fixing the wrong, it's actually hitting the wrongdoer.
Yes.
Which is why when it comes to crimes, we insist on severe punishments.
Exactly.
Because we don't believe in addressing the crime. We believe in, inflicting maximum pain and suffering on the criminal.
Yes.
And we believe that will scare away other potential criminals. No. Let's talk about the crime, and let's maybe educate people about how that crime does this or that, etc., etc., etc. That is how human societies evolve, and that is how human societies should function.
I think that's a very important message for us all. These are a few things at least that we can do to tackle extremism. We have discussed very important points, and probably we'll conclude it here. But definitely, I want to discuss the other two E's in a next session, because as always, the hope is that probably at least this is our little effort to, to be better human beings and
Absolutely.
to be better Pakistanis. Let's
True.
hope that, we will move to a better future rather than, a bad one.
True.
Yeah. I must thank you, sir, and thank all the viewers for watching.